I'm Tom Downey for the Cowboys Report, and today's show is made possible by True Classic. I'm rocking one of their polos, and you guys can get 25% off your order when you use promo code CHAT over at trueclassic.com/chat. Today's show, we're looking at some trade candidates for the Cowboys. Both Blogging the Boys and Mike Fisher, both friends of the show, have looked at different names, so we'll break them all down and see what their trade value is. Could they actually be moved? We're going to begin with Chauncy Golston, who I was a little surprised to see on the list because I like him as a football player in terms of what he brings to this Cowboys team right now. He's a good fit as a rotational piece along the defensive line who can play some defensive end and some defensive tackle, and I think will play some more DT this year. I'll kind of break down the overviews for all the different players, just with like their roster chance, their trade value as we go through here. So Golston's up first, right? I'll give him, and these are all rough estimates, so, they might be wrong. 75% chance at the roster, might even be a bit too low. I give him the highest trade value here, 5th-round pick. Now, your path to trading him is if other players emerge and Golston plays well and you have a surplus riches, you want to get maybe a running back or something else, or a receiver or whatever, and you flip him for a player or a draft pick there. Golston has not been super productive. I do think the things that he does best, helping stop the run, taking on some double teams at times, being a nice piece as a rotation guy, doesn't always show up in the stat sheet. On the defensive line depth chart, we will label him as a defensive tackle / a defensive end. There is that option from that perspective in terms of he and Junior Fehoko can play some inside-outside stuff from that perspective. So I like what Golston brings. I don't really want to trade him away, but I do think there's an option to add him for the Cowboys if they have a surplus of talent there. Now, Threads is the new fun app that's out there these days. So if you are on Threads and you follow me at WhatGoingDowney, I'll link it in the comments section, description to make it easier for you too. I will follow you back. It's the same handle on Instagram, Twitter, wherever, at WhatGoingDowney. If you follow me on Threads, I will follow you back. Let's go to Neville Gallimore here. He has simply not lived up to expectations, and the Cowboys would save $2.74 million with a trade or a release. That is a significant amount of money for a player who is not a roster lock right now. I'll put him at 50% chance he makes the team, and that even might be a bit on the higher end. 7th-round pick is all I think you'd actually get back if you traded him because of the contract. He's due $2.75 million. That's not the vet minimum. Golston is cheaper and has been about as productive. And Gallimore, frankly, has not taken that step forward. And the Cowboys were a little unhappy with him last offseason when maybe he didn't quite show up in the level of shape that the Cowboys had been hoping he was going to be in. And that's why he played so much in the preseason. It's make or break year for Gallimore. If it doesn't work out, he might not be on the roster. So will Neville Gallimore make the Cowboys this year? This is today's pinned comment. So if the ad happens to come here on YouTube in a matter of moments, ignore the ad, go vote instead of the pinned comment. Y for yes, he will, N for no, he will not. Go vote at that pinned comment right now. Jourdan Lewis, next up again. All these players or all these names were mentioned at least by Mike Fisher, and some of them overlap with Blogging the Boys. I think Golston and Gallimore were on there as well here. Lewis could begin the year on the PUP list. That is not a guarantee that he's able to begin week 1. That does complicate a trade, by the way. Cowboys save $4.7 million with a trade or a cut. I'll put his chances at 69%. I was going to do it at some point. You guys all knew it. 6th-round pick trade value if he's healthy and if he's active. And I think the injury in general does very much stunt, plus the contract, any potential trade value for Jourdan Lewis, who has been a good football player. Don't get me wrong, but he's made comments about learning to play with what he's calling his new foot. And that's just red flags galore for me, man. Of you got a new foot, you're playing football? That's not an easy path to being active and being able to play and being a key part of this Dallas Cowboys team. So that's a red flag in terms of where things sit. But the Cowboys do have depth in that cornerback room. Trayvon Diggs, Stephon Gilmore, Bland, Wright, Scott, Mukwamu, etc. Kelvin Joseph, who we will get to, by the way. So Jourdan Lewis, if he's healthy and if the other young guys emerge, does bring about the possibility of the Cowboys looking and moving on from him in the trade market. I'm rocking a True Classic polo, and you guys can get 25% off your order at trueclassic.com/chat when you use promo code chat. I actually bought some for my dad and my father-in-law. My father-in-law loves the shorts, just the chino-style shorts, so he can wear them to his work. He can wear them golfing. He is a huge fan of those shorts, the chinos. They also got the quick-dry active ones, which I wear around the house all the time because not like I'm working out, but that's what True Classic is great for. They fit your body, whether you got the dad bod like me or you're in elite shape like my dad is. My dad has a six-pack still at his age, which is kind of crazy. True Classic fits both of us. 25% off your order at trueclassic.com/chat. Whatever you wear, whether it's the active wear or they even got some button downs as well, folks, I always like to feel nice and comfortable. If you want to feel fancy, button downs are perfect there. All True Classic clothing is designed to be versatile and work with your lifestyle, so you can look and feel your best from morning to night. They are so committed to their product, they have a 100% risk-free guarantee and easy returns. And we do love a good guarantee around here, folks. If you're ready to upgrade your look and your wardrobe, go to trueclassic.com/chat and use promo code chat. Link is in the comment section and the description of today's show. Look your best, feel your best, and be your best with True Classic. Let's move to someone who has maybe not been their best as of late. That is Kelvin Joseph. He's now working at nickel corner as the second rounder is fighting for his job. And frankly, I think there's a very good chance he does not make this team unless he really impresses in the preseason, which I do hope happens, by the way. I'll put the roster chances kind of low. He or Nahshon Wright probably won't be on this Cowboys team, and or Jourdan Lewis, of course, too. I don't think there's much trade value right now in Kelvin Joseph. Seventh-round pick, has not produced the way you would like him to play, has not emerged as a reliable piece in the secondary. The Cowboys were desperate last year for cornerback help, and they just wouldn't even put Kelvin Joseph out there on the field. He got burnt so much, was allowing a bunch of touchdowns. There just wasn't confidence in him from the coaching staff. If that changes, he can make the team. If it doesn't change, man, he's going to be in trouble. He's not going to be on this team because there's Trevon Diggs. There's Stephon Gilmore. There's Deron Bland. There's maybe Jourdan Lewis. I think they want to have Eric Scott make this team. They want to have Israel Mukuamu be their superstar hybrid, defensive back from that particular, not superstar, but versatile chess piece at corner in the secondary. And then there's Nahshon Wright. There's Kelvin Joseph. So it's not a super easy situation to find an obvious roster spot for Kelvin Joseph because he hasn't emerged as that reliable piece, at least not yet. Again, I hope that happens this offseason. I truly do. But I have to see it happen before I commit myself to Joseph making this team. And despite being a second-round pick, doesn't mean there's a ton of interest in him on the trade market. So what will end up happening with Kelvin Joseph? Type K for the Cowboys, keep him. He makes the 53-man roster through cut-down time. T for they trade him. Somebody else gambles on him. Or C for he's just straight up cut and the Cowboys move on altogether. Get those predictions in for me in the comment section right now. K, T, or C. Sean McKeon is next up, the fourth tight end on the roster, who's also not guaranteed a spot, right? And in fact, if a player like Hunter Lipke emerges, or hell, maybe even a Princeton Fant, or if the Cowboys just go, we got Schoonmaker, Ferguson, Hendershot, we don't necessarily need another fourth tight end, then the Cowboys could look to move on from Sean McKeon. I think the roster chance right now is, in that 40% range. I don't think there's much trade value for a mainly blocking tight end. We're kind of at the point of the video where it's maybe a seventh-round pick, and in general, players tend to get cut around roster cut-down time because teams will call their bluff because they just don't need that much in terms of the impact there for Sean McKeon. So, look, he hasn't done really anything in his NFL career. He has not been an impact piece. I think he had 2 catches last season. He just hasn't been a player who has really contributed to the Dallas Cowboys roster. And I think if you're lucky in terms of the trade, you get that 7th-round pick. Again, that depth chart for Dallas at tight end is in pretty solid shape right now. They spent a 2nd-round pick on Luke Schoonmaker. They have Jake Ferguson. They have Peyton Hendershot. And, does Princeton Fant, does John Stevens, Seth Green, do those guys emerge? Probably not. Those are, I think, more like, we're not going to play Ferguson a ton or even Hendershot a lot in the preseason, so we needed extra depth there. So hopes are a bit lower, I suppose, for Sean McKeon. Chuma Edoga is next up. He signed this offseason on a contract that very much reflects what his status is for the Cowboys team. That is a roster bubble player. He was not given a significant guaranteed signing bonus or base salary, which would allow the Cowboys to move on pretty easily. Now, depth across the offensive line in the NFL is not very good. So you could see a scenario where maybe a team offers a 7th-round pick or a player swap for him. I think it's kind of 50-50 right now that Edoga ends up making the Cowboys roster, depending on what happens with like a Josh Ball. Is Matt Waletzko the savior? Does Dallas try to go deep along the offensive line with what they have to carry extra bodies, something they did not do last season? Edoga's played about a season's worth of snaps over the course of his career. A lot his rookie year where he was really bad for the Jets. He struggled. Last year for the Falcons, playing at guard, he did flash a little bit more, which I think matters. The Cowboys, like I mentioned, do have depth along the offensive line. The Smiths, Biotish, Martin, Steele. I think they want to have Austin Richards on this team. I think they want to have Matt Waletzko on this team. Maybe Farniok is a borderline roster lock. Is Chuma Edoga a player who can earn that spot as that 9th or maybe 10th offensive lineman? We'll know more as training camp moves on. Speaking of training camp, by the way, if you want more camp videos, then subscribe. Free videos every single day. When you hit that big red button, we will have all of the training camp coverage you could ever want. So hit that sub button right now for more free Cowboys videos. All right, Matt Farniok is next up here, as I kind of stumbled through that last video's word, apparently. The Cowboys internally appear to be pretty high on him. I think they like him as an option even to start at left guard. And because of that, because of the buzz I've heard internally, I'm putting his roster chance like 95%. I think there's a really good chance he makes this team, and I would be shocked if he didn't. Now, I was a bit surprised to see him both on my guy Fish's list and Blogging the Boys list. Love those guys over there too, and girls too. I'm willing to put the value as a 6th-round pick. That's kind of a big gap of like value versus roster chance, I think, from what we've done elsewhere. But Farniok has not played that much in his NFL career. And when he's played, I don't think he's been that good. I thought he struggled against the Bucs, but he was the guy that they went to. Blogging the Boys mentioned like, hey, what if Josh Ball emerges? Or what if Matt Farniok is worthy of being a starter somewhere else? I think is asking maybe a bit too much. I would rather keep him, especially for a 6th-round pick value. He can be my swing interior alignment. I'd keep him, not trade him, because I don't think you're going to get enough back anyway. Will Grier, the quarterback portion of today's show. I do think Fish nailed this one on the head when he made the comment in his article about, everyone's worried about losing their quarterback. Never happens. It happened to Will Grier last year. Remember, he was cut initially, and he made it through to the practice squad. I think there's a decent chance he makes the team with the way the NFL is juggling their 53-man roster, QB3 rules, because, the Niners had all their guys hurt. Deal with it. I think 7th-round pick at best. And I almost went with nothing. Will Grier has been cut multiple times and has not been traded for. And he made it to the practice squad last year. Didn't play at all for the Cowboys. In his career, 4 interceptions, no touchdowns. Now, to be fair, that Panthers offense with Grier and others around him was a pretty big mess and just really wasn't his fault. But I don't really think there's anyone who's going, you know who we need on this team? Will Grier. I don't buy it. Now, maybe his guy, Doug Nussmeier, who's been a longtime coach for Grier, dating back to Florida, maybe he goes into the Chargers and go, we got to get someone better than Easton Stick. We don't want Easton Stick, and they bring in Will Grier. Like, that's your only path, but seems fairly unlikely that is the route the Cowboys would choose to go. All right, name a player now who you think the Dallas Cowboys should try to trade away. Any player on the roster, it can be a much bigger name. These are much, I think, lesser caliber names in the end. But name a player who you think the Dallas Cowboys should look to shop. We move now to Cooper Rush. next up on this list, as the Cowboys brought him back on a 2-year, $5 million deal, which isn't very much. And I don't think there was a ton of interest in Cooper Rush as a free agent option. You know, the Bengals had called, some other teams had called, but I think it's basically a roster lock for Cooper Rush to make this team. I'll put him at 99.9% chance that he's on this team. If Dallas goes, Will Grier's our better backup, and they want to trade Rush, maybe a 5th-round pick. I will give Rush plenty of praise for the job that he has done over the course of his NFL career as a backup. He's stepped up. He's won football games. That's valuable. But that doesn't mean Cooper Rush is a starting caliber quarterback. And that is reflected in the very cheap contract he got to return to Dallas. Didn't pay very much there. I trust him as the bus driver, as the backup QB. I don't think anyone's going to pay him any more than that, though. Finally, Rico Dowdle. The Cowboys have liked Dowdle. He has not played that much over the course of his career due to various injuries, but I liked him coming out of South Carolina. They've given him chances, but he's always been a bit banged up. The running back room is super wide open behind Tony Pollard. Maybe Deuce Vaughn makes it because they don't want to cut him. So almost 50% chance I'll put him for making the team. I think the math would not math properly because I'd give decently high numbers to guys like Malik Davis and Hunter Lipke and even Ronald Jones, and it wouldn't add up properly, but we'll go above the board there. The pitch from Fish was Dowdle flashed in the preseason because Pollard's not going to play, and he earns a trade, which would be great. Not sure that will end up happening in the end. 7 carries in the course of his NFL career, 24 yards, mainly been a special teamer for Dallas. But like I mentioned, that depth, that running back room is loaded in terms of options. Not clear options who are good, but options. Deuce Vaughn, Ronald Jones, Malik Davis, Dowdle, Lipke. I am curious to see who ends up emerging. The loser in terms of who doesn't end up emerging could very well be shopped and traded, and maybe the Cowboys get something back. I would almost say in the end it is more likely that the Cowboys choose to, trade away or trade for back if no one emerges and they are able to get value for one of those backup players in Dowdle, Davis, etc.